The alien council stared at Earth through the cold glass of their assembly chamber. Thousands of light years of conquest, thousands of species bowed in submission. Yet here was humanity, small, defiant, unpolished, unremarkable by any reasonable measure, and still they refused to kneel. "They cannot be contained," whispered one counselor, its multiple eyes narrowing. "Their planet refuses to beg." But they expected begging. They had grown used to it. Civilizations bending, scraping, trading their dignity for survival. And Earth had sent emissaries, humble, polite, pleading, and the answer had been the same every time: unacceptable. Rejected. The word hung in the void like a weight, and yet somewhere on that blue and green speck of a planet a human smiled, not in fear, not in resignation, but in something the Council could not understand. Hope, defiance, audacity. Captain Torres stood on the observation deck of Earth's orbital station, looking down at the familiar swirl of oceans and deserts. She had been briefed on the Council's decision an hour ago. Earth would not be admitted to the interstellar coalition. The Council deemed humanity volatile, reckless, unpredictable, unfit. She clenched her fists, her knuckles whitening beneath the weight of disbelief. The humans in the room around her were silent. Some were angry, some were afraid. Most were thinking about what the Council had not seen, what they could not see. The Council had not seen humanity laugh while staring death in the face. They had not seen humans build from nothing, create from chaos, survive when every logical measure said they would fail. They did not know the stubbornness of hope. "They think we will beg," said quietly. Her voice trembled, but there was steel behind it. "They think we will ask for permission to exist, but we don't beg." A murmur rippled through the room. Not fear, not doubt, but recognition. "Then what do we do?" asked a young engineer barely out of her teens, her voice tight with excitement and fear. Turned to her, eyes blazing. "We build, we prepare, we take our place." It was more than a plan, it was a promise. Humanity had been underestimated for. On Earth, they had survived plagues, wars, famines, tyrants, and the slow, grinding entropy of nature itself. They had adapted, endured, and thrived. And now, faced with rejection on a galactic scale, they would not shrink. They would rise. The first blueprints appeared on screens. Fleets of ships, designed by human hands, forged in determination and stubborn ingenuity. Every vessel a statement, every engine a heartbeat. Humanity's message to the universe: you may refuse us now, but we will not vanish quietly. Walked through the construction bay. Engineers, scientists, volunteers, thousands of humans moved with purpose, their minds synchronized by a single thought: survival, defiance, creation. The hum of machinery was like a chorus, a symphony of persistence. "They called us reckless," whispered to herself. "Maybe they are right, but sometimes recklessness is the only path to greatness." The first prototype ship, sleek and angular, rose slowly on magnetic lifts. It gleamed under the cold lights of the station. Humans crowded around it, hands brushing the hull as if laying claim not just to metal and circuitry, but to destiny itself. "What do you think they'll say when they see this?" a technician asked, her eyes wide. "They'll understand," said a shadow of a smile on her lips. "Not now, not yet, but they will." At night, returned to the observation deck. Below, Earth rotated peacefully, oblivious to the storm of determination taking shape above it. She thought of the Council's words: unfit, volatile, dangerous. Dangerous. Maybe that was true. Maybe humans were dangerous, not because of weapons or numbers, but because of their hearts. Because no matter how small or fragile, humans refused to accept a world that told them they did not belong. And somewhere deep inside felt the spark that had driven humanity for. The spark of audacity. The spark of laughter when the odds were impossibly stacked. The spark of courage when everything else demanded submission. They had rejected Earth. They had judged humanity unworthy, but Earth had not begged, Earth had not knelt. Earth was building a fleet, and soon the universe would see what it had refused. As stared at the stars, she whispered to herself, not as a commander, not as a soldier, but as a human. "They may have rejected us, but they will not forget us." The first engines roared to life before dawn. Stood among the human engineers, feeling the vibration through the soles of her boots, through her chest, through her very soul. The sound was raw, chaotic, beautiful. It was a human sound, refusal made audible. Somewhere in the galaxy, the Council would see it. They had called humans reckless, but this was more than recklessness. This was resolve forged in fire and fear, and the humans knew it. "We're actually doing it," whispered the young engineer from before. Her voice trembled with awe, excitement, and a sliver of terror. His eyes never left the prototype vessel, its hull shimmering under the station's lights. "No," she said softly. "We've always been doing it. We just didn't know the scale until now." Humans are never content to watch the impossible from the sidelines. They adapt, they build, they push. And now, faced with cosmic rejection, they had no choice but to exceed it. In the corridors of the orbital station, debates raged. Some questioned the wisdom of defiance. Others argued strategy. But beneath every voice, every objection was a shared truth. Humans do not retreat when told to stop. They do not obey when they are told it cannot be done. "We'll need more fuel," a technician said, her hands skimming a digital panel. "More engines, more materials. This is bigger than anything we've attempted." "That's the point," replied. Her eyes burned with quiet fire. "We don't aim to match them. We aim to surpass. We don't beg to be allowed in. We make them regret they ever thought we wouldn't rise." Weeks turned into months. Every day the station hummed with effort. Every night humans fell into exhausted sleep, dreaming not of escape, but of confrontation. And in those quiet hours would often stand before the viewport, gazing at the stars. She imagined the Council watching from 1,000 light-years away. How would they react when humanity launched its first fleet? Would they be afraid, amused, shocked? She did not care. They had rejected Earth, dismissed humanity as unworthy. It no longer mattered what they thought. What mattered was what humans knew in their bones. Survival is built from courage. Defiance is built from hope. And sometimes the smallest creatures, the ones deemed fragile and insignificant, hold within them the force to move worlds. One evening alarms sounded. The station shuddered. His heart jumped. "Status," she demanded. "Unknown energy spike," a technician replied. "It's coming from the outer edge of the solar system." His mind raced. Could it be reconnaissance from the Council, a probe sent to see if Earth was serious, or something worse? She turned to the crew, her voice calm but commanding. "Prepare for contact. Whatever it is, we face it as humans, with courage, with ingenuity, with unity. We do not flinch." The first scout ship appeared beyond the planet's shadow, sleek, cold, and alien. Its sensors swept the station, analyzing, recording, judging. The aliens do not understand humans. They never have. They see logic, efficiency, predictability. They see weakness and hesitation. But humans see opportunity in chaos. Stepped forward as the scout hovered. She raised a hand, not in surrender, not in supplication, but in acknowledgement. The alien probe pulsed, scanning. Its lights flickered like judgment. And for a moment saw it not through technology, but through instinct, fear, surprise, recognition. Humans laugh in the face of impossible odds. Humans fight when every reason says surrender. Humans endure when the universe expects collapse. And the scout, it had never seen that. The first exchange was silent. No words, no threats. Just the slow, deliberate realization that Earth was no ordinary world, that humans were no ordinary species. In the control room, the engineers held their breath. His hands clenched the console. "They see us," she whispered. "They're watching, and they're learning. That is all we need." The scout departed, leaving more questions than answers. But that was exactly the point. The Council would not know the full extent of Earth's defiance until it was too late. And humans thrived in the unknown. As the station returned to its steady hum, allowed herself a rare smile. The fleet was growing, the human spirit stronger than ever. They had been rejected. They had been dismissed, but they had not bowed. And soon the universe would learn the truth. Humans do not ask for a place at the table. Humans build the table, carry it across the stars, and take their rightful seat. Whispered into the silence, her words more vow than thought. "They think we are reckless. Let them watch. Let them fear. Let them remember the day they rejected the Earth that refused to beg." The universe did not wait. It never does. By the time the Council realized Earth's defiance, the first human fleet was already taking shape in orbit. Walked among the assembly bays, the smell of molten metal and ozone thick in the air, and she felt the pulse of creation beneath her feet. Each ship was a heartbeat, each crew member a note in a symphony of determination. "They said it couldn't be done," she murmured, tracing her fingers over the hull of a newly completed frigate. "But they didn't know humans. And they never would, not fully." The fleet was unlike anything the galaxy had seen. Not in size, not in firepower, not in technology. It was human ingenuity made tangible. Machines welded from desperation, engines tuned by persistence, weapons designed to survive and adapt. Everything about them bore the mark of human stubbornness. A young navigator approached, her face pale under the cold light of the bay. "Captain, the Council has responded. They're dispatching a task force. They think it will intimidate us." Lips curved into a small, sharp smile. "Intimidation has never worked on humans," she said. "They're about to learn that the hard way." The first contact came at the edge of the solar system. Ships like predators in the void, sleek, precise, alien. Their weapons glowed with quiet menace. And yet's fleet did not flinch. Humans have a strange, almost reckless courage. They fight even when every measure says defeat is inevitable. "Form up," barked. The fleet responded with seamless coordination. It was a human thing, chaos disciplined only by instinct, by trust, by will. The Council's task force opened fire. Beams of energy lanced through the darkness, precise and lethal. Alarms screamed. Hulls shuddered. Fires ignited along the surface of the lead frigate. But still, humans advanced. The alien commander's voice boomed across comms, cold and detached. "You are outmatched. Retreat or be destroyed." His response was simple. "We don't retreat, we adapt." And adapt they did. Human engineers had anticipated this. Shields recalibrated mid-battle, weapons reconfigured on the fly. Drones swarmed like angry insects, repairing damage, rerouting power, exploiting weaknesses in the alien formations. Humans improvise when logic fails. They use humor under pressure. They sacrifice without hesitation. They do not know surrender in the way the galaxy expects. A young gunner, barely 20, laughed through comms as he dodged a salvo. "They think they've got us. Did they even check the manual?" Allowed herself a small grin. That was humanity, not perfect, not rational, but unstoppable. The battle raged for hours. Ships danced and collided, shields flared and faltered, lasers scorched the void. Yet every time the aliens pressed, the humans adapted, countered, endured. The Council had judged them volatile, unpredictable. And in their estimation, that was a weakness. In reality, it was a weapon. Somewhere in the chaos, noticed a crippled transport drifting. She hesitated, human instinct weighed against strategy, but she could not leave them. "Prepare a rescue run," she ordered. "No one is left behind, that's who we are." The alien fleet hesitated, perplexed. They had never seen it. They had never understood that loyalty could outweigh logic, that courage could defy probability, that humans cared. The rescue was chaotic, terrifying, miraculous. Humans flew into the heart of enemy fire to save their own, and they did it with laughter, with swearing, with unshakable certainty. Every life saved became another ember in the fire of defiance. By the end of the battle, the aliens had withdrawn, not defeated entirely, but shaken. They had not expected humanity to fight like this, to endure like this, to survive like this. In the silence that followed, hovered over the command console, her chest heaving. She looked at her crew, exhausted, battered, exhilarated. "We didn't just survive," she said softly. "We sent a message, we're here, and we're not leaving." The human fleet bore scars of battle, but their resolve was unbroken. Humanity had refused to beg, refused to yield, refused to be ignored. And in the quiet aftermath, as stars glittered coldly around them, realized something profound. The universe could reject humans. It could judge them unworthy. But it could not erase what humans carried within: hope, stubbornness, audacity, the irrepressible will to endure. And that, more than any fleet, any weapon, any strategy, was humanity's greatest advantage. Somewhere deep in the void, the Council recorded the outcome. "They are different," one alien whispered, and it was true. They could not comprehend humans, not fully, but they had witnessed enough to know this. Humans do not follow the rules of the galaxy. Humans make their own. And Earth had refused to beg. Watch the stars stretch and bend as the fleet moved outward. She thought of the next challenge, the next confrontation, the next test. But for this moment, she allowed herself a rare, fleeting satisfaction. The humans had shown the first spark of what they were capable of. The Council may have rejected them. The universe may have doubted them. But humanity was unstoppable. She whispered into the void, not to anyone, not to anything, but to herself and the echoing stars. They thought we were reckless, they thought we would break, but we endure, we fight, we survive. And one day the universe will learn what it means to refuse a human. The void was quiet now, but knew it was only temporary. The humans had survived the first test, but the universe was far from finished with them. Every scar on the fleet, every dented hull, every exhausted crew member carried a story of risk, of audacity, of refusal to kneel. They thought they could intimidate us, said, packing the command bridge. Her voice was low, deliberate. They were wrong, but they will try again, they always do. The Council's task force had retreated, but the humans knew it wasn't defeat, it was reconnaissance. The aliens had observed, they had studied, and now they would return with numbers, with strategy, with the weight of expectation behind them. Humans have a strange way of turning fear into fuel. Could feel it in her crew, nerves, yes, but also something sharper, brighter, a hunger. The Council had underestimated that, always. A young tactician leaned over the hollow table, tracing alien vectors with a fingertip. They're learning, she said. Each engagement teaches them, but we can't wait forever. They'll come back stronger. Then we adapt, said, eyes hard, lips set. We don't just meet them on their terms, we make our own. And so they began. Humans have an uncanny talent for improvisation, a talent born from survival in a world that rarely gave second chances. They turned raw material into weapons, engines into shields, chaos into strategy. Every new ship was a statement, every new tactic a reminder that humans do not simply react, they evolve. Weeks passed, the humans trained, tested, refined. They learned the patterns of the Council's scouts, the likely formations, the predictable arrogance, and they found cracks, small, almost imperceptible, but enough to exploit, enough to survive. Stood on the observation deck one evening, watching Earth's blue glow fade behind the fleet. She thought of the Council's words, unfit, reckless, volatile, dangerous perhaps, but not unworthy, not weak. Somewhere in the galaxy, the aliens had never considered the human heart. They had never seen courage born not of order but of defiance. They had never understood humor in the face of annihilation, laughter in the shadow of doom. Humans endure because they must, but also because they choose to, every day, every moment. And that choice was their weapon. Then the warning came. Sensors picked up a Council strike group advancing with ruthless precision, far larger and better armed than anything humanity had yet faced. Felt the familiar surge of adrenaline, that impossible combination of fear and resolve that humans carry in their marrow. This is it, she said, the real test. The fleet braced, engines humming with barely contained power. Humans do not wait for certainty, they act in defiance of it. The aliens arrived in calculated formations, expecting hesitation, expecting submission. They did not expect laughter or ingenuity or unflinching eyes. The first salvo tore through space, deadly and precise. Ships shuddered, alarms screamed. Humans responded instinctively. Shields recalibrated mid-strike, weapons fired in unconventional patterns, small fighters darted like swarms, unpredictable and terrifying. Mind raced, mapping the chaos with clarity only humans seemed capable of under pressure. She directed, improvised, anticipated. Every decision carried the weight of lives, of hope, of the audacity of a species that refuses to bow. And then came the moment the Council could never predict. A civilian transport filled with scientists and engineers drifted in the path of destruction. Logic demanded withdrawal, fear demanded surrender, but humanity demanded courage. Gritted her teeth, we don't leave them behind, not one. The fleet surged, weaving through enemy fire. Engineers guided makeshift weaponry, volunteers piloted damaged ships, and civilians became heroes in a heartbeat. The aliens faltered, stunned by a force they could not comprehend, loyalty unmeasured by logic. The transport was saved, lives were preserved, and in that act humans had declared something more profound than any weapon could convey. Defiance is born in the heart, not in the rules of war. When the council finally, bruised but unbroken, allowed herself a long, shuddering breath. The fleet was battered, the crew exhausted, but their spirits burned brighter than ever. Humans had faced overwhelming odds and endured, not because they were safe, not because they were wise, but because they were human. They laughed, cried, swore, and repaired. They improvised, sacrificed, and endured. They had been dismissed, rejected, and declared unworthy. And yet here they were, alive, victorious in a way that the council could not quantify. Looked at the stars, her voice soft, carrying through the stillness of the fleet. "They thought they could break us," she said. "They thought we would beg, that we would kneel, but we do not beg, we do not kneel, we endure, we rise, we are human, and the universe will remember." The council thought they understood humans. They thought they had seen the full measure of defiance, courage, and stubbornness. They were wrong. Watched the fleet from the bridge of the flagship, its hull, engines still humming with the echoes of the last battle. Humans do not rest long. They recover, they learn, they improve, and they do it while the universe expects them to fail. "Reports from the outer sectors," a navigator said, pointing to a holographic map. "Multiple colonies under council control have begun broadcasting anomalies, signals of resistance, coordination among humans beyond Earth." His chest tightened, a grin crept across her face. "They're learning, they're waking up. Humanity spreads, not because we command, but because we inspire." Humans have a rare talent, the ability to see the impossible and make it inevitable. They do not simply survive, they catalyze survival in others. Even now, on distant outposts, humans were resisting, sabotaging, fighting back. Where the council expected obedience, they found resolve. Where the council expected fear, they found courage. "Captain," an officer said, hesitant, "the council is sending another fleet. This one is larger, faster, better armed. They'll be here in days." Didn't flinch. Humans do not flinch. "Then we'll be ready, and when they arrive, we'll show them what it means to underestimate humanity." Weeks passed in preparation. Every ship in the fleet was reinforced, every weapon recalibrated, every crew trained for tactics that the council could not anticipate. Humans anticipate, improvise, and survive. They take risks others avoid. They laugh when logic demands fear. They endure when others would surrender. And they were not alone. Across the colonies, humans had begun to organize. Secret networks, underground fleets, improvised defenses, each a thread in a growing tapestry of resistance. The council believed in order and obedience. Humans believed in adaptability and heart. Then the first scout arrived, an alien vessel, sleek, mechanical, and terrifying in its precision. It scanned, calculated, and reported. But humans had learned patience. They had learned strategy. They had learned the power of surprise. "Prepare the ambush," ordered. "Let them come to us. Let them see humans do not just fight. We fight smarter. We fight together." The ambush was not just a battle, it was a revelation. Humans struck from every angle, coordinating across fleets, colonies, and improvised weapons platforms. The Council's task force was taken aback. They expected fear. They expected retreat. Instead, they found cunning, improvisation, and audacity. A young pilot, barely old enough to hold a command rank, dodged enemy fire and shouted over comms, "They're trying to predict us. Predict this," and looped her vessel through an impossible maneuver that left alien ships reeling. Humans do not always win by brute force. They win by audacity, creativity, and unshakable will. The alien fleet faltered. Their formations broke. Systems they thought secure were exploited in moments of brilliance born not from calculation, but from instinct. Humans improvise when the universe imposes rules. Humans create when the impossible is demanded. Felt a surge of pride, raw, uncontainable human pride. Every ship in the fleet, every crew member, every volunteer was proof that rejection was never an end. It was a challenge. It was a spark. In the heart of the battle, noticed a damaged cruiser, its shields failing, crew trapped. Logic dictated leaving it behind. Humanity dictated otherwise. "Rescue team, move," she barked. "No one is left behind." The crew moved with precision and reckless courage, weaving through enemy fire, risking everything for their own. The aliens watched in disbelief. These humans were insane, impossible, unstoppable. By the time the engagement ended, the Council fleet had retreated. Their scouts had been shattered. Their strategies had been exposed. Humanity had turned the tide, not just with weapons, but with willpower, heart, and unbreakable spirit. Stood on the bridge, staring at the stars, at the battered but unbroken fleet. "They think we were reckless," she said softly, voice carrying across the silent bridge. "They think we can be broken, but we endure, we fight, we rise, and one day they will know what it means to reject a human." Somewhere beyond the void, the Council would analyze the data, try to understand, try to adapt. But they would never fully comprehend. Humans are not machines. Humans are not predictable. Humans are alive in a way that defies their calculations, a way that refuses to bow. And that is why humanity survives. That is why humanity rises. That is why Earth, having been rejected, will never again be ignored. Closed her eyes, letting the hum of the fleet wash over her. The stars seemed brighter tonight, not because of light, but because of promise. Humanity had survived. Humanity had fought. Humanity had begun to turn the tide. And the universe, cold, vast, indifferent, was beginning to learn a lesson it could never forget. Humans do not beg. Humans do not kneel. Humans build, fight, endure, and they take their place. The void between stars was silent, but humanity's presence was loud. Every planet they touched, every colony they aided became a pulse in a growing heartbeat of defiance. The Council had expected submission, hesitation, and fear. They had received something far more dangerous: audacity. Stood on the command bridge, staring at the holographic display of the outer colonies. Lines of communication pulsed like veins across the galaxy, linking human settlements in ways the Council could not predict, could not control. Every colony that resisted, every fleet that answered Earth's call, strengthened the tide. "They think they can contain us," said, voice low and deliberate. "But humans do not fit into containment. We do not follow rules written by others. We write our own." A young officer approached, hesitant. "Captain, the Council is mobilizing a direct response. They're assembling a task force larger than anything we've faced. They intend to crush humanity before we grow further." His jaw tightened. Fear might have seeped into others, but not into humans like her crew. Humans feel fear, yes, but they feel something stronger: resolve. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is acting despite it. And humans act when survival demands more than obedience. "Then we meet them," said, "on our terms." The fleet moved like a living thing, flowing between stars, invisible until it chose to strike. Humans have always excelled at improvisation, and now they wielded it as a weapon. The Council believed in overwhelming force and rigid strategy. Humans believed in adaptation, creativity, and unshakable will. In the darkness ahead, alien ships glinted coldly. Their formation was precise, their numbers vast, their confidence absolute. Logic dictated human defeat. Instinct, audacity, and stubbornness dictated otherwise. "Brace for engagement," commanded. "Remember who we are, remember what they said: unfit, reckless, dangerous. Let's show them the truth." The battle began with a sudden flash of light. Lasers screamed through space, missiles streaked like falling stars, and the hum of human engines reverberated across the void. Every ship was a note in a symphony of defiance. Every crew member a testament to what it meant to be human. In the midst of chaos, humans adapted faster than the Council could comprehend. Shields recalibrated mid-strike. Weapons reconfigured in seconds. Small fighters swarmed with unpredictable maneuvers that conventional logic. The aliens had never faced such improvisation. They had never seen fear and creativity dance together, shaping reality in the moment. Amid the battle, noticed a young pilot struggling, her ship damaged and spinning towards certain destruction. Logic demanded abandonment. Humanity demanded rescue. "Rescue team now," shouted. "No one is left behind." Human ships weaved through the enemy, risking everything for one life, one spark of human spirit. The council faltered, shocked. Loyalty, courage, and love, traits they could not quantify, were weapons humans wielded instinctively. Hours passed. The alien fleet, though formidable, began to crumble. Humans had learned from every encounter, anticipating maneuvers, exploiting weaknesses, and turning despair into strategy. Every ship, every exhausted crew member became proof that rejection only sharpened their resolve. Finally, the alien fleet, their retreat chaotic, disorganized, fearful. For the first time, the Council realized humans were not a problem to be managed. Humans were a force to be reckoned with. On the bridge allowed herself a quiet moment. The fleet was battered but alive. The crew was tired but unbroken, and humanity was rising. She looked at the stars and whispered, not as a commander, but as a human. "They thought they could erase us. They thought rejection would stop us. They were wrong. They cannot stop a species that refuses to kneel. They cannot stop humanity." Every colony in the galaxy that had joined the resistance celebrated in small, quiet ways. Systems that had once been silent now pulsed with life, coordination, and hope. Humans had become more than survivors. They had become a symbol. And in that moment understood the subtle truth the Council could never see. It was not ships, weapons, or numbers that made humanity unstoppable. It was their hearts, their ability to hope, their willingness to sacrifice, to endure, to defy. That was the spark no council, no alien empire, no logic could ever extinguish. Turned back to her crew. Exhaustion lined their faces, but their eyes burned with something older than fear, older than war. Something that had carried humanity from the first steps on Earth to this moment among the stars. Audacity. "Prepare for the next engagement," said, voice calm but resolute. "We fight not just for survival, but for everything we are. We will not beg, we will not yield, we will take our place." And somewhere beyond the void, the Council began to understand the impossible. Humanity was not merely reckless. Humanity was relentless. Humanity would not be. In the quiet after the storm, whispered to the stars, carrying her words like a vow across the galaxy. "They rejected us, they underestimated us, but we endure, we rise. And one day, the universe will remember the day it tried to deny a human their place among the stars." The stars trembled with possibility. Humanity no longer reacted, they advanced. Fleet moved not in defense, but in assertion, a tidal wave of audacity that the Council had never anticipated. They had dismissed Earth as reckless, unworthy, fit only to beg. Now, humans were everywhere, in every colony, in every orbit, in every heartbeat of resistance. "They think they can contain us," said to her officers as they gathered around the tactical map. "But containment is for things that obey. We do not obey." The Council's fleets had grown larger, more disciplined. They had learned, adapted, and they believed that sheer force would bring Earth and humanity to heel. But humans are never just predictable patterns and calculations. Humans improvise, adapt, and endure in ways no logic can forecast, and in that unpredictability there is power. A young tactician pointed to a cluster of Council warships approaching from the edge of a nearby star system. "They're converging here, expecting us to be cornered. It's a trap." Eyes gleamed. "Then we give them something they will never forget." Humans have always excelled in the impossible. When a challenge is declared insurmountable, they innovate. When told to submit, they resist. When surrounded, they break expectations. And now, across the black expanse, they prepared a move that would shock the Council more than any battle before. The fleet split, scattering across the void, leaving shadows where presence was expected. Sensors went silent, communications darkened, and then, at the moment the Council's warships advanced, human forces emerged from every vector. Not predictable, not logical, not fear-driven, just precise, chaotic, and unstoppable. The Council's fleet faltered. Calculated formations dissolved under human ingenuity. Shields collapsed under unconventional tactics. Weapons fired in ways the aliens had not anticipated. Every maneuver told a story of a species that refused to be dismissed. Amid the chaos, attention fell to a disabled human colony ship trapped in the crossfire. Logic demanded leaving it behind. Humanity demanded otherwise. "Rescue teams move," barked. "No one is left behind." Humans surged into the inferno, risking everything for a single vessel, a single life, a single spark of their collective spirit. The aliens hesitated, baffled. They had never faced a species willing to endanger themselves for nothing more than loyalty and principle. As the battle unfolded, humans continued to innovate. Improvised weapons, unexpected maneuvers, and audacious sacrifices turned the tide. Every human act, every rescue, every defiance, every laugh amidst peril was a declaration: we are not yours to judge, we are ours to define. The council watched, stunned. Every calculation failed, every assumption shattered. They had underestimated not just technology but heart, not just strategy but spirit, not just numbers but audacity. Hours passed. The human fleet, battered but unbroken, forced the alien armada into retreat. Ships limped, systems strained, crews exhausted, but humanity endured. And the council learned a hard truth: rejection does not diminish humans, rejection fuels them. In the aftermath, walked among her crew, inspecting damage and offering quiet words of praise. Exhaustion lined their faces, but their eyes glimmered with something older than war: pride, defiance, hope. Humans have a rare gift. They feel deeply, they endure fiercely, and they act boldly. Even in the face of overwhelming odds, they rise. "They thought we would break," whispered almost to herself. "They thought that rejection would teach us humility, obedience, fear. They were wrong." The human fleet gathered near a newly liberated colony. Survivors emerged from shelters, eyes wide, mouths trembling with awe. Humans had done more than fight, they had inspired. Resistance had become a movement. Humanity was no longer confined to Earth. Humanity was everywhere. And somewhere deep in space, the Council recorded the outcome, unable to fully comprehend. They had not faced a fleet, they had faced a species. Not mere soldiers, but hearts and minds driven by courage, loyalty, and defiance. They had underestimated what it meant to be human. Gazed out at the stars, her voice soft, reverent, and fierce all at once. "They rejected us, they expected obedience, they expected fear, but we endure, we fight, we rise, we do not beg, we do not kneel. And one day, the universe will remember the day it tried to deny humanity its place among the stars." The words lingered like a promise, a warning, and a celebration all at once. Humanity had survived, humanity had adapted, humanity had triumphed. But more than that, humanity had defined itself. Not by the council, not by logic, not by expectation, but by heart, by courage, by audacity. The stars were silent witnesses. The universe, vast and indifferent, would never be the same. And standing among the survivors, whispered one last vow into the void. "They can reject us, they can underestimate us, but they will never break us. We are human, and humanity endures." The stars were no longer silent observers. They burned with the weight of possibility, reflecting the pulse of a species that refused to be dismissed. Humanity had survived. Humanity had fought. Humanity had endured. And now the universe would finally witness what rejection could not contain. Stood on the bridge of the flagship, the fleet stretched across the void like veins of fire and determination. Every ship bore the scars of battle, every crew member carried the memory of sacrifice, yet their resolve was unbroken. Humans do not crumble under pressure. Humans do not yield to expectation. Humans rise. "Captain," a young officer said, voice taut with awe and fatigue, "the Council has massed their entire fleet near the expanse. They intend to crush us completely. They've called it decisive." Eyes hardened. "Then we give them something they will never forget. We show them what it means to underestimate humans." Humans excel in moments the universe deems impossible. They improvise when logic fails, laugh in the face of fear, and endure when survival demands audacity. The Council had misjudged them. They had thought rejection, dismissal, and intimidation would define humanity's limits. Instead, humanity had defined itself. The battle began in a flash of fire and steel. Alien warships moved with precision, but humans moved with unpredictability, with cunning, with heart. Every tactic had been honed through months of struggle, every maneuver born from experience and instinct. Every human heart beat with the knowledge that they were not just fighting for survival. They were fighting for recognition, for place, for identity. Fleet struck with coordinated chaos. Fighters darted like swarms of lightning, frigates unleashed firepower in unexpected sequences, and civilian vessels transformed into vessels of ingenuity and resilience. Humans use what they have, build from what is available, and never, ever surrender to fear. Amid the maelstrom, saw a crippled alien ship drifting. The Council's logic demanded destruction. Humanity's logic demanded something else. "Rescue teams, move," she shouted. "We do not leave them behind." Humans surged into the heart of enemy fire, risking everything to save life. Not for strategy, not for gain, but because it was the right thing to do. The Council faltered, unable to understand the audacity of loyalty, courage, and moral strength. Humans were not merely fighting, they were defining themselves through every choice. Hours passed. The Council's massive fleet began to falter. Their formations broke under human ingenuity. Their attacks were countered with daring tactics and relentless determination. Every human victory was small, precise, and poetic, a defiance of probability, expectation, and fear. Watch the culmination of months of struggle unfold. Humans had turned rejection into action, dismissal into strategy, doubt into power. Across the stars, colonies that had once been silent now pulsed with life, resistance, and unity. Humanity was not alone. Humanity was everywhere, and it was unstoppable. Finally, the alien fleet, not entirely defeated, but shattered in purpose and perspective. They had faced not a species they could control, but a force they could not predict, could not contain, could not comprehend. Stepped onto the observation deck, looking down at the stars. Earth glowed in the distance, fragile and familiar. And yet humanity's reach now stretched far beyond it. They had been rejected. They had been dismissed. And yet they had risen. She spoke softly, not as a commander, but as a human. They thought they could deny us. They thought rejection would break us. But humans do not beg. Humans do not kneel. Humans build, fight, endure, and they take their place. Somewhere deep in the void, the Council recorded the outcome. They could not fully comprehend it. They would try, they would fail. Humans were beyond prediction, beyond control, beyond dismissal. And the truth lingered in the silence that followed the storm. Humanity's strength was never in fleets or weapons alone. It was in hearts that refused to be broken, in courage that ignored the impossible, in laughter amidst fear, in love that demanded sacrifice. Humanity endured because humans chose to endure. Closed her eyes, feeling the pulse of the fleet, the hum of survival, the heartbeat of a species that had refused to vanish quietly. "They rejected us," she whispered into the stars, letting the words drift across the void. "They underestimated us. They believed we were reckless, but they were wrong. Humanity rises, humanity endures, and the universe will never forget us." The fleet moved onward, a shining testament to audacity, courage, and defiance. The stars bore witness and the galaxy listened. Earth had been rejected. Humanity had not begged, and now humanity had claimed its place among the stars. In the quiet, allowed herself a rare smile. The impossible had been made inevitable. The underestimated had become unstoppable. The rejected had become remembered. And in that moment, the universe understood a simple truth. Humans do not beg, humans do not kneel, humans endure, humans rise. And once humanity takes its place, nothing, not logic, not power, not fear, can ever deny it again.